So I started my faith journey as a little boy. I, I would beg my mom to let me serve with altar boys, and for as far as I can remember, I always wanted to serve the Lord, especially in the ministry with the altar boys and now as an acolyte. And I did that for many years. I did my first communion, and I started to follow the Lord, and not really understanding things. I guess my innocence and didn't let me fully understand what I was doing, but I knew it was right. And so I did that for 5 or 6 years. I hit, 16, 17, and then COVID hit. And I stopped serving. I stopped going to Mass. I stopped everything. My faith stopped. And when that happened, I gave in fully into the world. I started to hang out with my friends that were secular, doing God knows what, and hanging with girls, and I even know how that story goes, right? But it's very funny because as it was in this bad life, completely just far gone, I decided to take out this girl who I was really interested in, and she happened to be a Protestant. And I don't know if you guys ever had experience with Protestants. They speak about God as if that it's their buddy, like they know him. And I, for whatever reason, I had that longing to know God again and who he is. So I started to attend where they do their service, and I felt that inclination to reach out to the Lord and to see what he wanted for me. And I stayed there for a while, too long, if I'm honest. But I then came to realize that something was missing. Something, or someone, I should say, was missing from my life, and I truly needed him. And so, me and that young lady, we parted ways, and now on my own, I realized, well, as a boy, I love to serve. I love the Catholic Church. Let me give it another try. So I came to confession here at St. Joseph's, and I was there for a good 10 minutes because I haven't confessed in like 10 years, 11 years, and I was longing and needing of forgiveness. And then I received our Lord. And when I received our Lord, I truly understood what I needed, and it was him in the Eucharist. I realized that everything that I ever longed for, everything that I ever needed, was in our Lord in the Eucharist. And so I decided to introduce myself to the priest that was celebrating that Mass, which so happened to be Father Stephen, who's sitting behind me now. And I mentioned to him, I was like, I used to serve when I was a boy. And he asked me, why'd you stop? And I gave him a truthful answer, well, half-truth. I said, I felt like I was too old to serve. And he looked at me dumbfounded. And he's like, did you see who was up there on the altar with me? I'm like, yeah, it was, he looked like an older man and what seemed to be his son. So he's like, yeah, so you're never too old to serve the Lord. And I said, that's interesting. And he said, you know what, leave your information with me in the parish office and I'll give you a call. And very soon I got a call and they asked me if I wanted to serve as an altar boy again. And I said, yes, of course. Then, little by little, I heard the word acolyte here and there. And for those that don't know, he's an altar server who can also administrate the Eucharist. And I think it was my second weekend to serve, and I said, can I do that? And Father Stephen quickly interrupted. He's like, nah, give us some time. He just got back. And then a few months went by, and I guess I proved myself, and I showed dedication and that I love the Lord, and eventually I was allowed to administrate our Lord in the Eucharist and to hold love itself, to hold Jesus Christ is the biggest blessing of my life. I can't say enough how much I feel at peace, how I feel loved by the Lord, how I feel that my life is coming to fulfillment, how I feel that the Lord is working within me every day, because when you hold Jesus, when you hold him truly present in the Eucharist, you realize how imperfect you are and how much you need healing. How you struggle to see who you really are when He isn't there and present in front of you. So ever since then, ever since I started serving, I realized like I am such an imperfect being. And what I realized even more so is that I kept doing things the way I wanted to do them. I kept running my mouth. I kept swearing. I kept being arrogant. I kept being prideful. And the Lord quickly working through me, and especially in this ministry, He's like, no, I want you to be perfect. Like our Father in heaven is perfect. I want you to be more of me. At least that's what I understand. And I realized like, oh, I need to fully focus on my faith, even more so. And time went on, and I started to see how the priests lived and see how their lives seemed a little better than mine. Through Father Stephen, Father Martinez, Father Law, and even Father John. I realized that their life resembled the life that is full of honor, full of reverence to the Lord, and full of service. And I realized that's exactly what I want for my life. And so I started attending these discernment meetings for the priesthood. And little by little, all the guys there seemed to like me, and I seemed to like to hang around them. And I got introduced to other priests, other seminarians, and I realized like, is the Lord calling me to this? But I realized I was too stubborn, and I was like, nah, that's not for me. So I went on with my day and kept serving, kept dating for a little bit. But it was in my heart that I was not fully convinced that our natural vocation was for me. So I went on a little longer, and a year went by, and I realized, no, I think the Lord is calling me to the priesthood. And so I got asked to fill out an autobiography, and then I got asked to fill out an application to the seminary. And a couple weeks ago, I finally got my acceptance letter to Queen of Angels House of Priestly Formation. And I want to say thank you to all of you, because without knowing and without really considering me as a person, I guess, your prayers for priestly vocations and just men who are willing to serve the Lord have been answered. And not to say that it's just me, no, there's hundreds of us, and not just in LA and surrounding cities, but across the country. There's men every day consecrating their lives to the Lord and wanting to grow closer to Him and feel that priestly calling. And also, I want to say thank you for also fulfilling your duties as men of God, as fathers that are Catholic, are willing to serve. Without you, there wouldn't be people like us. Without one, there won't be the other. So I want to encourage all of you to keep praying, to keep serving the Lord, and keep loving your families.